Brazilians are longing for these seamless customer journeys. And I think you can test this as really, really good in this country and really get a feedback because they are really want to improve their products. The customers are open to talk as well with companies.
Hi, I'm Marina Scomazzon, Key Account Manager at PagBrasil, and today we're going to discuss the potential of the Brazilian market for international businesses. And joining me here are Ralf Germer, CEO and co-founder of PagBrasil. Hi, Ralf.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here with you to discuss this topic.
Alain Delcourt.
Hi, Marina. Thank you for having me.
Technology Director at Xsolla. And Nils, Radsak, founder and CEO of Konekta Consulting.
Hello, everybody. Nice to have you.
Nice to have you all here. Thank you for joining. And well, the Brazilian market is in the spotlight for the international businesses across different sectors. But what makes Brazil such a prestigious place and often considered a laboratory country to test the feasibility of new products or services? That's the question. So to start with news, Konekta Consulting provides consulting services to an automotive German company that chose Brazil to launch its B2B marketplace. In 2024, the automotive sector announced a 72 billion reais investment, the largest ever, resulting from the combined efforts of 7 manufacturers. So Nils, please tell us, why was Brazil chosen to launch this project?
Okay, Marina. So in general, I would say that Brazil is a really creative and innovative country, and as well a really emotional country when it comes to connections in terms of relationship and in terms of transactions. I make the differentiation between relationship and transaction because transaction is really, really important for the customer journey itself. And I think you can test, like you said before already, a lot of these features and functions and solutions here in Brazil. In the past as well, in my former position as an executive in a big OEM, I was the CEO and CDO from Audi. We had the same topic there as well. So we actually used from the headquarter based a country there is firstly really creative, innovative, but as well where you can test without breaking something into parts. Okay, so in terms of strategics, I think it's good for a testing environment here in Brazil. And in terms of scaling as well as a solution, I think that is as well really important because it's a really, really big country. And as well for this supplier we are talking about, it's a super, super big mass that they can as well scale. And if you talk afterwards a little bit about marketplaces, scaling is really important. Then the last point is really important as well to mention is that in terms of PagBrasil right now, Fintech is really, really important as well in the country. So Fintechs are popping up like mushrooms here since decades already. And I think in terms of different topics, in terms of security, in terms of fraud, in terms of transactional businesses here in Brazil, I think that is a really, really good place to be to test.
It makes total sense. Yeah, I totally agree. And Alain, Xsolla is a global video game commerce company that provides tailored monetization solutions for game developers and publishers. Yeah. So the 2024 Pesquisa Game Brazil revealed that more than 73% of Brazilians play digital games at a daily basis, highlighting the potential of Brazil in this segment. So I'm curious to know, how do you see the Brazilian market and its relevance to your business?
Yeah, so Brazil is a very connected country. People are very into social networks. They use a lot all of the tools, WhatsApp, Instagram, etc. So that makes it very unique. And as Nils was saying, fintech has been booming through the last 10 years. So it means that the user experience for online banking, for instance, is cutting edge. I'm from Europe originally, and I still have a bank account in France. I see how I struggle sometimes to manage my money movements there if compared to what we have here. Game is not very different. Like people, they enjoy being with their friends on games platforms. They are a lot into esports. They are a lot into all the cutting-edge trends of video gaming. Video gaming is a very innovative vertical, I would say. Many things happen first in video game and spread spread to other markets and other verticals. So we see the same here. Few trends: cloud gaming growing, monetization through super apps. There are a lot of things that happen sometimes in Brazil faster than in other countries of the world. So this is important for piloting things. We've seen a lot of even big companies using Brazil for piloting big projects and international projects. So take, for instance, the case of WhatsApp Pay. So the Meta Group started conversational commerce initiatives in Brazil first. Why that? Because these people here, the Brazilians, so they are very connected. If it works in Brazil, most likely it can work in other places. At least in the West, the East is a bit different, but at least in the West, it gives a good clue about the stickiness of the value proposition. And in case something goes wrong, which can happen when piloting a project, the impact is not the same as if you fail in the US. The exposure is a bit less, but still it's 200 million inhabitants. So if you succeed, you're pretty good to go everywhere.
Yeah, and this brings me a topic to all of you. If it works in Brazil, it will work in other countries, right? So what sets Brazilian consumers apart from others? Why are we so different after all?
Let me just first add one point to what the two said, Nils and Alain. I totally agree with what they said, but there's one more factor that I think is important. That is, Brazil is far away from the headquarters, and that helps a lot, because the headquarters don't get involved, and lots of things don't have to be authorized by the headquarters, and this gives flexibility to the local entities. And we just visited a customer yesterday of ours, which is a European company. We talked to the Brazilian subsidiary, and they said, look, we here in Brazil have an independence what all the other regional organizations don't have, because the company understood that it's necessary to adapt to the Brazilian local needs and circumstances. So the company said, okay, Brazil will be more independent than other companies. And I think this is the case of many successful companies, international companies in Brazil. So this independence helps also to develop new things without going through very bureaucratic authorization procedures. And coming back to your question, I think it was already said, culturally, Brazil is very open. It's also a younger society compared to many other developed countries. So the average age is lower. But Brazilians culturally are very open to new things. They're not worried so much about what can go wrong. They're more interested in experiencing new things. And they just try out things. And if it goes wrong, they will stop using it. But as long as works and gives them some benefits, they will continue using it. And I think this is the reason why payment methods like Pix was so successful and grew faster than anything else in the world. And also other products and services companies launch are tested in Brazil and are successful in Brazil. It's a cultural thing.
Agreed. And Alain and Nils, what about you? What sets Brazilian consumers apart, in your opinion?
My point of view as well is the topic that Alain mentioned as well, the connectivity, that the people are really connected. Emotionally, I said as well, but connected, I think, is a really good word that Alain chose here. And the topic about WhatsApp, for example, I think it's a good example as well that almost 98% of the people here using WhatsApp. And that is actually the basis of their communication, their transactions. So I think that is really interesting in comparison maybe with China, with the WeChat a function like super apps, like mentioned before as well by Alain as well. I think that is really important as well. And the second point is you have to create a really good customer experience that is really like a little bit buzzwords right now, but frictionless and seamless. I think that is important because the Brazilians are longing for these seamless customer journeys. And I think you can test this as really, really good in this country and really get the feedback because they are really want to improve their products. The customers are open to talk as well with companies. So the topic about B2B to C is, I think, really, really well established in Brazil as well. So I think that is what I think the consumers is setting them a little bit apart from different countries like, for example, Europe or US, for example.
I would say that the challenge has evolved a lot for international companies in Brazil. So 10 years ago, it was about digitizing people. There was still some scarcity in the reach of the internet in general. So not every Brazilian was connected. E-commerce was still a very early stage. And this has evolved very rapidly. So the Brazilians are now, they get access to most of the big digital services from the West. So take Uber, for instance. Number one city in the world for Uber is São Paulo in terms of number of rides. I think it still is. 5 years ago, for sure, it was already. People access Spotify or equivalent services, Airbnb, etc. So the market is pretty covered in terms of a big and global service offering. What's happening is Brazil is getting ahead of a lot of markets in terms of a few digital services, mostly in the banking space now. So we have in Brazil the first online bank in the world called Nubank, 100 million clients, for instance. That's a unique case. And this is coupled with also a unique way of paying, like Ralf was talking about Pix. This is something that we're going to explore possibly in this talk. So this creates a bit of a lab also, and a possibility to elaborate on new user experience, on a frictionless experience that we don't see in other and developed countries, let's say. I can say pretty proudly, because after 25 years in Brazil is in my heart, that we can be an inspiration in many new way of purchasing online for other markets in the West.
And maybe, Marina, I just want to add one point as well, because it's a conversion as well, what Ralf said and what Alain said as well, the openness as well. And that relies as well on data protection. I had in the past a lot of difficulties in terms of doing projects in Brazil, or doing projects in general, due to data protection regulations and sets and all that stuff. And this is here as well a little bit different. We have here as well in Brazil a data protection regulation law, but it's a little bit more open. So I think as well the customers or the consumers are given freely the space as well for companies to experience. And I think that is really important, because I see it in the US, I see it principally in Germany, that is every time you find a problem, and here it's not a problem, it's more the solution. And this is in terms of regulations in German culture, really like you have to go this way because the law says it. And here it's a little bit different. It's a little bit creativity. We have the word jeitinho, and I think that is describing it really well. So you can come around the obstacles and not just going through the wall. I think that's important to add.
We sometimes say that the US innovates, Europe regulates. We stand in Brazil, I think we stand a bit in the middle. So we are not so stubborn sometimes about regulation, but we have a very strong framework, mostly coming from the regulators in general, but especially from the central bank, which allows to innovate with flexibility. And this has been working very well over the last 5 or 10 years.
And on the other hand, like we've been talking about what motivates company to invest and to come to Brazil, right? But what are the main challenges the three of you see foreign companies face when operating here?
Let me start. I think there are many challenges, and I think we could have a podcast only about that. Yeah, and who lives and works here knows about these challenges. But Brazil has a very complex tax system. I think one of the more complex in the world. Bureaucracy is also a problem when you do business in Brazil. Geographically, size of the country can be a problem if we talk about physical goods. It's not homogeneous. The country is huge, and not everywhere you have good infrastructure. Then you also have challenges of in a legal area, that especially if you innovate, create new products and services, you might have laws and regulation on a municipal level, on a state level, on a federal level, which sometimes even is conflicting. It's not always easy. And for sure, there are also cultural challenges. For somebody that comes like us here and come from other countries, I'm also German, and come from other countries to live in Brazil, we have learned to live with the different culture, but there are big different cultural differences. And I think companies need to adapt themselves to these challenges to be able to do business here. But the good side is it's possible to overcome these challenges. And if you do that, if you manage to do that, you can have a very good business and a very profitable business as well.
Yeah, I've been in the payment and e-commerce space for the last, I think, 15 years. So I've seen a lot of operation from an e-commerce perspective, from a payment perspective. I saw operations from physical goods, social apps, video games, etc. Several approaches, obviously. If you are a very big global and international marketplace, say Amazon, for instance, obviously, at some point there is a need to go local with a local entity and a local operation, local warehouses. And this is not very easy for the foreigners because the context can be a bit blurry sometimes, taxes, bureaucracy, etc. And somehow local players, say Mercado Libre, for instance, they kind of have a leverage because they can adapt pretty well to like the Latin work framework overall, right? It's very different when it comes to an international company selling digital goods worldwide without a need to have a local footprint. It's very difficult to have local presence and local entities in all countries in the world for many international companies. So we see companies trying to have a global reach from the US or from Europe or from Asia, right? And there are several approaches. Some of them, they think, okay, we go US and Europe first, maybe Japan, but it's a bit more complicated. So first thing that they are going to do, for instance, for payments, they plug Stripe, they plug a global payment solution, which are pretty efficient in North America and in Europe because card processing is pretty straightforward, a few wallets and good. When it comes to selling in countries like Brazil and other emerging countries, the game is very different. First, we are not card driven, for instance. That's the first thing. Second, the user experience requirements are very different. So all of this creates a big hurdle on the payment side. All questions related to tax clearance, etc., can also be a challenge. And basically, at some point, these companies having this mindset of going Europe and US first, they come to the conclusion that they need local partners. And this is usually what is needed. If you have good local partners, you are able to tackle the local complexity. You need to understand what makes Brazil a different market, of course. But then some local players can be your boots on the ground, I would say. And this is usually a learning curve for international merchants. They take sometimes a few years to understand that they are US and Europe, and they are the emerging countries which have a totally different logic, and Brazil is clearly part of it.
I think that is important at the local partners. I think I wanted to stress as well, because I think international companies coming to Brazil underestimate actually the topic that Ralf mentioned at the beginning, the fiscal and the financing topics here in Brazil. I think that is a super complex issue. And that's why I'm personally advising my customers as well, go for these topics with a local company. That is the first one. Then the second one that Ralf mentioned as well, the distance to headquarters could be as well a challenge. It is on the other side, it's an advantage that we had before, but it could be as well a challenge because you are really distant and it's a different time zone. It's a different culture. So this distance maybe gets the topic a little bit more complicated in rolling, especially if you are piloting a project and you need to have sometimes connections with headquarter topics or with different regions. That's the second one. Language barriers, I would say, yeah, sometimes yes. Not in Sao Paulo, I guess, as well, not in the south of Brazil, but in the rest, if you would like to scale something and really make something globally, and Brazil attends the global, we are getting better with this, but still I see a challenge here as well. And the third one is the creativity. It's an advantage, but it's as well a disadvantage. It's a challenge. Why? In terms of fraud again. So I had my experience at Audi when we launched the e-commerce platform in selling vehicles online in the pandemic principally. We had a lot of things like popping up, boletos. Yeah, that is the cash transfer actually document. They were hacked, or there were like Itaú, but it's actually a different bank. So it was really, really bad done, but the creativity is totally there, and they use it actually for the disadvantage or for the bad thing in business. But I think in generally, I see the potential opportunities wins over the challenges, my point of view in Brazil. So this is, I think, I need to do this statement here as well.
Yeah, thank you.
I agree.
Me too. And well, since we're talking about these challenges, and since Brazil, it's a unique place, how do you think, Alain and Nils, companies can personalize the shopping experience for Brazilian consumers to increase their chances of success and to increase their chances of conversion, after all?
Yeah, well, first of all, go frictionless. So this is an ever-going topic. Purchase experience has to be really, really good in Brazil, and this keeps evolving with evolution of technology. So we are now in the age of open banking, for instance, and this creates new flows where typically you want to purchase and do an account-based transaction through a very seamless interface. So that the first thing, which is really, really important, and it takes time to have everything, I would say, streamlined here. The second trend, I think, is the gamification of the user experience. That's a trend that we see everywhere, but especially in Brazil. So we are more and more in an age of loyalty programs, rewards, cashback, and it works a bit like a game. These loyalty programs, for instance, my bank, my main bank in Brazil, proposes me a loyalty program for my credit card, and I have 5 levels. So in order to reach level 3, for instance, I need to do this, and that. It works more or less like a game, right? So this is obviously something that we are working on at Xsolla, because we are on the gaming space, so we know how to gamify. And that's a solid trend, I think.
I think Brazil. Important thing is that when we talk about user experience, is that it's not something that you can develop and then it's done. It's something very dynamic.
Yeah.
It's not like it's evolving all the time. And this is one of the reasons why PagBrasil decided to focus on the Brazilian market only. And we have products which links countries all over the world, but we focus on the Brazilian market. We do Brazil only, and all the payments we process have real as the Brazilian currency involved. And this is because it's a very big market with more than 200 million inhabitants, and it's a very dynamic market. And I think you have to see it from that point of view. Brazilians expect to have an experience which is totally localized, which is adapted to their local needs. For example, Alain said it, that Brazil is not a card-focused country. payments are done with credit cards. In the digital world, almost debit cards are not used. Then we have PIX, which is already the predominant method of payment in many businesses. For gaming, for example, it's by far the most important payment method. And then you have other solutions like Boleto. So it's very different. And even I always say that even cards in Brazil are different because you have local labels like Elo and Hypercard, and then you have installment payments and other functionality that only exists in the Brazilian market. So even if you provide credit cards, you need to be local. And this is a mistake which many global companies sometimes do. They have their solution for all the world, it works on all the world, and we just put the same thing into the Brazilian market and let's see what happens. And usually not much happens because Brazilians expect to have a localized experience. And then to do the investment to adapt a global platform to the Brazilian market, you requires a very big effort. And then the companies which enter in the Brazilian market and have only little business in the Brazilian market, they don't see the relation about the effort which is necessary in terms of investment with the potential or the business they currently have in the market, because it's only 0.x% of their global business. So, and therefore, and I think it's one of the things we need to talk about as well is how to overcome these kind of things. Local partnerships are very important.
Yeah, maybe I can add maybe as well to the frictionless topic, and that's what I'm advising my customers as well. Use a buzzword again, best of breed solutions, and not only local, go as well best of breed. For each specific customer journey space, there is a solution that fits best your needs. And that's what I'm advising my customers. And it depends really on, I do not want to put out names here from the different technology partners, but there are different partners in the CRM space. There are different partners in the e-commerce space. There are some in the loyalty or incentive management space, and as well in terms of financial transaction space, in terms of fintechs. And I think you can build your ecosystem, your tech ecosystem to attend really the customer journey. And then you make it really frictionless. And on top of it, if you then have, for example, engagement topics, like, for example, the WhatsApp tool, and you add this on, you have to drive conversions on these tools as well. And they are going to do that space. And maybe, Alain, a comment on him as well. I have a good friend, Alexander Graf, from Germany, and he is doing these messages on a lot of the stages like Temo and Shein. So Temo is actually using exactly this terms and ads and gamification to create the stickiness on their websites. And if you create the stickiness, they are staying there. And if you only look on TikTok, for example, TikTok Shop, they have an e-commerce space, even only on TikTok. So in search, they overcome Google, I guess, already. In commerce, they had only 2023, I think, a GMV around $300 billion. So you can imagine what scale these platforms have in terms of creating the stickiness and creating just keep them there and just transact on their platform. So this is I think it's a trend, but it's as well a topic in terms of how you create a better customer experience and customer journey. So I think that is really, really important to have a look at.
Yeah. One thing which makes Brazil so pretty unique is the power of content creation. Influencers, etc. As people are very connected, there is the creators' economy is very, very important. So we've seen many influencers with millions of followers, and this set the trend for a lot of product and services. Let's say promotion, right? In the video game space, obviously, a streamer playing. In any given game is going to set the trend and create a very big impact for the game, for the IP, right? So this is a trend that we have been working on very, very intensely at Xsolla. We have, for instance, a pretty interesting marketplace, putting in touch developers, game developers, and content creators. So a game can be promoted in some given space in Brazil, and there are some economic rules behind, so everybody can get a piece of the cake, let's say. And this is also really one of the important trend of the moment. Creators economy is here to stay. This creates a need to be able to pay out local people, local Brazilians supporting your business somehow. And this economy is of being able to pay out people is also like supported by other activities in the countries. In the country, which are pretty big now, we have sports betting growing a lot, and people need to receive their rewards, etc. So Brazil is a country which is, let's say, payout intensive. You need to be able to reward people supporting your business in the country.
Yeah, perfect. And then I wanted to know from your perspectives, Nils and Alain, specifically about your businesses now. How have PagBrasil solutions impacted the experience of the Brazilian customers so far?
Yeah, maybe I can start, Alain. And it is easy to say because we actually mentioned all the points already. Yeah, it's a local solution, and I think one of my customers, that is the big supplier actually here in Brazil, they created this marketplace, this B2B2C marketplace, and they have exactly these touch points. Yeah, when you can see, for example, as well, what Alain mentioned, that you can, for example, have split payments, for example, yeah, and installments, what Ralf mentioned as well, and then as well, possibilities in terms of PIX, yeah, transacted a little bit differently than different regions as well. So we have a lot of things there where local necessities are super essential for the success for the company itself, and then as well to drive different future topics as well. Yeah, and or for example cross-border payments. Yeah, and then we're coming back again to fraud topics. Yeah, that is important in terms of cross-border transactions. So there are a lot of things. Like I think it's really important to have this local company who has the Brazilian knowledge about the variety of transactional or finance transactions. Then, for example, different big players, like we mentioned before as well, you have a global template, but actually a global template is depending on customer needs. And the customer needs are different, as we mentioned before, and I do not need to actually recapture what we said already. But I think that is I think, the most valuable thing that I saw in PagBrasil using it for my customers.
Well, in my case, I know Ralf, we know each other for 12 years, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Something
like
like
that. Very long
so,
time, yeah.
And I saw PagBrasil when it was a very, very tiny structure. Now it's a very different setup, obviously, because the company, I'm very happy to see that. I would say that what payment is a long-term game. I would say this is not something that you do for the coming 6 months. At the moment that you choose your payment partners, you choose them for at least 5 years if everything goes well. Obviously, sometimes problems happen. So the criteria, in my opinion, has to be around long-term resilience before anything else. Like any glitch on the payment flow can be very costly. And the second is about constant innovation. And in payments, the devil is in the details. So it sounds pretty straightforward for an end user to pay. You just use your bank account, your credit card, and you pay, right? And hopefully it works. And this is a 30-second experience most of the time. But in order to have a good conversion, to have the best product, and that the product is resilient and up and running 24 hours per day, you need to make sure that you have the right partner. And it's about many things. It's about the culture of the company. It's about the way resilience is thought. I've seen a lot of companies pumping money to promote some product for some time. Sometimes it's not very consistent. I trust that PagBrasil is growing with innovation and resilience, and this is what I'm looking for primarily when I choose a partner. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. I'm happy to hear that. And but I won't speak about my own company, but I will say in general, it's very important that companies or merchants really do their work well on selecting a payment service provider. Now, what is the functionality that they need, and compare that? Which provider really is offer that? I see companies that they don't, that only compare fees and then choose the cheapest ones, and this usually goes wrong. So you have to look, what are the features, the functionalities I need, and who can provide that to me? What about robustness of the platform and the service? You can compare that by maybe only by trying it out, but you can also ask around in the market and try to find out who can provide the best robustest platform. And then customer support and these kind of things. So it's really important to analyze the market and choose the best player for your business specifically, because every vertical is different. Gaming is different from automotive, completely different, for example.
And to wrap up, guys, I wanted to understand from your perspective the key trends. Alain already told us about the influencers and the important role they play in Brazil. But what are the other key trends you see shaping the future of international e-commerce and investments from international companies here in Brazil? And from you, Ralf, I wanted to know the key trends, especially regarding the fraud and safer, ensuring safer operations, if you might.
Yeah, so from my perspective, so looking a little bit as well on automotive and the global industry for automotive, I think I see especially the trend into the marketplace topic, that is related to e-commerce, but is really attached as well to a payment provider, to establish really, like we said before, for example, a high complexity in different partners acting on the same platform and distribute the payments between them, so split orders and split payments again. So I think that is really a dynamic pricing, for example, is really important in the automotive space currently, because the automotive space is growing, the ecosystem is growing vertically and as well sometimes horizontally. It depends on how your view is on the industry. But I think because it's getting more complex, more partners will interact with each other. And there you have to have this robustness in terms of the transaction as well. And the finance transaction is one of the core transactions. That is one topic. Then I think the other topic is as well maybe AI. We have a web shop, we have a podcast or a webinar without mentioning AI, right? So AI is really
Not
important,
anymore.
my point of view as well. Right now it's not, because it's on the table again. But I keep this a little bit as well for Ralf maybe to talk about fraud, because I think AI can specifically be in terms of fraud, in terms of being transparent and efficient in terms of the transaction. I think that is AI providing as well, not going into really detail. Then the other one I see as well is in the financing area or the finance area, open banking and decentralized finances. Yeah. I think that is really important as well in terms of cross-border. I think that I can see it's lacking for me in my customer view, but as well personally. If I want to transact internationally money, it's I do not want to say the word, but I say it's pain in the ass. So it's not good. And on the other side as well, I think it's the whole scenario about Bitcoin. I think still that will be on the table in terms of trends, in terms of how you transact financially. Bitcoin, what does it take a role right now with the US right now going in front of it? It's exploding right now, but I have my opinion about it. It's not really a super positive one, but it's as well not negative. But I'm still super neutral with Bitcoin on that time in that topic. Yeah. But I think we can use in terms of connecting the customer experience to make it better. I think these are the models that you really have to shift maybe to create a little bit better customer experience in terms of a commerce experience, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, using Bitcoin for an online purchase is something still pretty exploratory, but we've seen things in Latin America where you can anchor your crypto coins to, for instance, to a credit card or to a prepaid card and toy with it. So we have this kind of solutions emerging, and for sure it's interesting. Yeah, most globally, but the commerce trend that we see. So we spoke about the creators economy. We now see live commerce coming, and all the initiative that TikTok is rolling out in some markets is going to come here for sure. We focus a lot at Xsolla on conversational commerce. how tomorrow you purchase through WhatsApp, or in our case, it's more Discord. So we have a Discord channel attached to a payment basket that some of our merchants can use. Also, the way of monetizing digital goods is shifting, in our opinion, from traditional retailers. I mean, most of digital goods merchants, they sell on their own platform, right? So Spotify sells on Spotify platform, etc. But also there are some distribution channels in the market. 10 years ago, it was like online retailers. I don't know, Walmart.com, for instance. And this is shifting towards super apps. People spend more time on their apps, and especially, for instance, their banking apps or their telco apps. And there is a room for enhancing digital distribution on this kind of platforms. So this is something that we can do also for our merchants. We see in our space. We see some game-specific trends, like for instance the rise of cloud gaming. Now it's something very, very interesting. So basically, the way to monetize product, the range of possibilities is broadening, and the way Xsolla approaches it is trying to. It's bringing a comprehensive suite of e-commerce solutions to the market. So we serve all kinds of publishers, small ones, big ones. And take, for instance, a company like Roblox. You know Roblox, right? I know Roblox because I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I know that it costs me some money sometimes. What do these guys do primarily? They are very good at creating a game experience on a game platform, which can be used in many, many ways, right? When it comes to building the reach to the local users, typically they need partners, and what they need is partners to create a seamless experience for the end user to purchase without really noticing that there is a partner. So basically a white label solution for monetization. But we have other partners, merchants, clients. They want to monetize through other kinds of distribution channels, like the ones I mentioned. Take also the case of a mobile publisher. That's, let's say, mobile first publisher. That's a different logic. When you are on the mobile space, the question is around whether you monetize through the Play stores only, or you go direct to consumer and build your own web shops. This is a very interesting topic because the regulation is moving in many countries. In Brazil too. Today, you can, as a merchant of digital goods, create your own channels and monetize a piece of your content outside of the Play stores. So it brings an interesting value proposition because the economics are different, right? There are some rules. The rules are evolving. In Europe, there is a Digital Market Act. We have some changes also in Brazil. And also creating direct-to-consumer channels brings a different relationship between you and your consumer, and you can customize your user experience according to the users you want to reach, without having a pass-through in the middle, which is a Play Store. So this is the kind of games that we see also growing in our space, and we want to be like a central piece of and we already are a central piece of this question of going direct to consumer.
Great. Let me just add one thing from a payments perspective. In Brazil, for us, the most important trend is the adoption of PIX, which will replace other forms of payment at a large extent, and especially one-click payments. Yeah. The future of commerce in Brazil is one-click payments in a digital environment. And this can be through digital wallets like Apple Pay, but also with Pix. Now, one-click payments in a digital environment through Pix, where the card is the account is debited. Now, this is the future. Brazilians will pay with one-click experience in the future. Forget about typing in payment details in digital environment. It will disappear. I think this is important to come all companies doing digital business in Brazil to know, because they have to adapt themselves. They have to find the partners to do this. No? And then coming to your second question, regarding fraud, it's a very important topic in Brazil. And first of all, like in card fraud, Brazil is the second country in the world after China with the highest rate of fraud in cards. And but this is the good news, there are solutions for that. And in success, Brazil is the second country in fraud attempts, but in successful fraud, Brazil is at a lower range, because there are solutions in the market that are really effective. And here it is very important that international companies don't get into the Brazilian market with their solution, which they have been using in other markets, in the developed market in Europe and North America or Asia, but that they start using a Brazilian solution, a solution that was developed and tailored to the Brazilian market, because we have specifics here in the market that don't exist outside of Brazil, and like installments and payments, like payment methods that we only have, or the fact that all digital payments come with the CPF, which is the fiscal number of the individual or even the company. That are submitted with the transaction, and you can do analysis based on that. So this is very important to take into account when you do business. But, interesting is also to see that Brazilians are today less worried about their credit card details to be stolen than their phone to be being stolen. This is the biggest issue, not only in Brazil and also in other countries, but particularly in Brazil. So this is the main worry of Brazilians: get their phone stolen, and then that people get access to their banking apps, etc., etc. So this is the main worry of Brazilians today.
Question for you, Ralf. We have seen the rise of Pix, and that's crazy, right? Pix accounts for more than 50% of all transactions in Brazil, offline, online, etc. This product was launched, I think, 3 years ago, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in 3 years, from 0 to 50% of all transactions in the country. How come that this happened, and why is Brazil kind of setting the trend here? How can you explain that?
I think there are a number of reasons. Now, first, we have a regulator that can impose certain rules to all the market and all the banks. And the regulator said, okay, look, we want to have a system which is innovative. We want to have a system that is cost effective. And we want to include all Brazilians into financial and digital financial transactions. And then they launched a system and simply obliged all the banks that had more than 500 accounts to implement Pix from day one. And it made that everybody implemented it, and all the smaller banks and even the digital wallets. So from day one, all companies, all in the financial institutions had Pix available.
And the central bank owns the payment method, right? Yes, it's pretty unique, because it's the Chinese, it's with WeChat, and Alipay is not like that. And it's pretty unique case, right?
Exactly, and it's one open system. So all financial institutions, even merchants, can connect to the system with a non-solution, and it's very cost effective. Private individuals can transfer money for free at any amount for free, from 1 Brazilian real cent to billions theoretically, and then merchants love the system, and merchants are the main driver of the Pix adoption. Other than in other countries, we have done business all over the world, and I have never seen merchants doing advertisement or incentivizing the use of a specific payment methods only if the payments company pays for it. But usually they don't care how the customer pays. But with Pix, merchants incentivize it because it's cheaper, and it's settled instantly to their account. So this is the main driver for Pix, and I think the adoption will continue with the new functionalities that will be launched now with Pix and contactless Pix, Pix Automatic, and
we see in the retail really merchants giving discounts. Lots of offers like
5% time.
Pay with cards and it's 100, or pay with Pix and you have a 5% discount, 95.
It's a cash transfer, right?
Yeah.
But maybe on top of that, what Ralf mentioned, I think what is really, really important to mention as well for the audiences as well, that is a finance inclusion. Yeah. So with Pix, you can really democratize the usage actually of finance transactions. Yeah. Payless or moneyless.
It was interesting during COVID, for
really
instance.
Important. Yeah.
How the governments sent incentives to people in need through opening online accounts and in giving subsidies through Pix. Yeah.
If you look at the Brazilian society from 12 years up to any age, we have 165 million Brazilians that have a Pix key, so that use Pix. This is 95% of this part of the society, 12 years and older. That's incredible. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And I believe there's no other payment system in the world that has such a penetration, such an adoption rate.
When was the last time you did a Pix, Ralf? On your personal account?
Today.
Yeah. Marina?
Yeah, me too, today.
Me yesterday, but okay. Not long ago.
Well, everyone, the conversation is very good. We have material for 3 episodes more. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for being here, for discussing, giving these great insights. It was a pleasure having you here. We're wrapping things up. Thank you so much. And see you soon in the next episode of PBtalks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.